As you know, the title of this is Facing Uncertainty, How to Grow Our Resources and Resilience. And you know the saying that we teach that's which we most want to learn. This subject has been so big for me ever since the pandemic, and it's been a real personal journey. And I'm really honored to be able to share the insights from an NVC perspective with you in ways that I'm hoping will help you along your journeys as well. So overall, what I want you to get, the big takeaway, are some ways to apply the principles of nonviolent communication that'll actually help you be more resilient. And this is the big one. This is the new content that you might not have seen before, which is how to actually grow your resources. Not just resourcefulness, but to actually grow our resources during this time of uncertainty. So one of the big takeaways is I want you all to leave with a sense of confidence of ways to make your safety net bigger and stronger. So that's the focus. So let's start with looking at the impacts of uncertainty in general and how it impacts us personally. So this is a term that we often see in leadership circles where I do most of my NVC teaching, is the term VUCA. That VUCA is now a new norm, and that refers to, and I know that Zenobia, our chat guru, is very familiar with that too, in USC, where we both, what's the word, participate and contribute to the executive leadership program. This is a common term: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. Welcome to the new norm. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, but what it helps to appreciate about recognizing this is that often we, myself included, can fool ourselves or with unreal expectations that life will just go on as it did before. And it doesn't, not necessarily. So, and we'll go into that in a little bit, but let's first focus on your own life. Think about the uncertainties that are personal for you right now. And which ones are you most concerned about? And go ahead and type that into the chat, and I'll ask our chat guru Zenobia to shout out some of the ones she sees. She might not be able to keep up with all of them depending on the speed, but at least we'll get a little cross section. So go ahead and do a little chat storm and let's see what you've got.
Got income, career, health, shelter, health, my parents' health, when can I be with my friends, my partners, intimate community, new job, how I will be received, purpose, the integrity of my neighborhood, spiritual acceptance, social peace and order. When will COVID end? Yes, Donna. Health, income, and pension, growing up. Roger says discrimination. Anelli, meeting my friends abroad. Didi? Navigating relationships, Corey, COVID, health, connection, finances, government issues, empowerment, unmet needs.
Okay, we'll go ahead and stop here. You can still read through the rest, but thank you, Zenobia.
You're welcome.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. So let's keep moving on and go a little deeper into this inquiry. So those are some examples of the uncertainties that are concerning you. In nonviolent communication, one of the key concepts, one of the 4 elements are feelings, which is what I like to call emotional awareness or emotional intelligence, because feelings are energy and they're important data. They show us where our energy is being directed right now and whether it's needs that are getting met or unmet. So take a moment right now about the uncertainties that you just shared in the chat. And we'll have a second chat storm now about the emotions. What emotions do you experience? What are the feelings that you're feeling when you think about these uncertainties? And Zenobia, if you don't mind doing some shout outs again like before.
Linda says fear, RM anger, Linda hopelessness, Sean confusion, anxiety, Marwa fear and anxiety, Rosvita overwhelmed, Roger overwhelmed, Idris tension, Sean sadness, Dee Dee distressed, RM despair, Corey tension, frustration, sadness, Lauren scared, Stein anxiety, sadness, Idris agony, Anelli sadness, Sequoia betrayal, Jessica heaviness, anxiety, frustration, overwhelmed, Linda hopeless,
Woo.
Renee sadness, and numb.
Whoa, okay, thank you. I know there might be some more flowing in. Boy, take a moment. You know, I'm gonna stop the screen share right now. Just so we can, I'm gonna invite you all to put your Zoom on gallery view, just so we can see each other. And I want you just to take a moment and look in each other's eyes and kind of acknowledge the humanity in what we just heard. We are all a bunch of human beings experiencing some pretty powerful emotions right now. And so I'm just going to give us just a couple seconds just to kind of take that in and to take each other in. Because this isn't just, you know, a talking Lorraine head at the screen. This is a community right now. So I'll just give us a couple moments in silence just to take that in. And I invite you to scroll through the pages so you can really literally see each other. To be seen is one of the universal human needs in nonviolent communication. And sometimes just taking a little moment of consciously seeing can really shift the energy. It is for me. All right, thank you. Okay, I'm going to put the screen share back. So an article that I wanted to share with all of you that I found to be really insightful and informed a lot of what I'm offering you today is an article from NPR, National Public Radio, called Sleepless Nights, Hair Loss, and Cracked Teeth. Pandemic Stress Takes Its Toll. And the reason I wanted to reference that is that there has been, we are far enough into the pandemic to see the data showing that there is a physiological impact as well as, you know, of course, a mental health impact. Oops, sorry. Get back there. Come on. A mental health impact of living in this time of uncertainty. And even myself, you know, as much as I practice nonviolent communication in my own life, it was really easy to deceive myself in thinking, oh, you know, King Lear wrote, or Shakespeare wrote King Lear during the pandemic. I think I'm going to write my King Lear. I actually left my home in Seal Beach and went to Mexico, where I am right now. I'll be back in Seal Beach before the end of the year in California, but I'm going to write my King Lear and be wildly productive. And guess what? Bam! I didn't feel like working at all. I hit the most massive writer's block, and not just writer's block, life block. I'm normally a bushy-tailed, ambitious person full of creativity, and instead of being wildly productive like I thought, you know, I just cocooned. And so, you know, it's sometimes we can be surprised, our expectations for ourselves, that everything should be like it is before, but things can really be different, and they do have an impact on us. So this is our last chat storm I'm going to invite us into. Later we'll be doing some dyads where you'll be actually talking to each other, but kind of easing you into the interaction right now. So the last chat storm is, what about you in your life? How is the stress of uncertainty impacting you physically and mentally? You know, for me, you know, it was, I used to call it a mild depression, but I'm actually calling it cocooning, because it really is where I belong. I think I know that this is a time of quiet and going inward. And yeah, just loss of motivation, loss of wanting to be wildly productive. So that was the big impact for me. So what about you? And more vulnerability to minor illnesses. So go ahead and type in the chat, and we'll ask Zenobia to read through some of them as well.
Lauren, I'm sleeping a lot and have a difficulty getting out of the house when I'm awake. Emma, interrupted sleep, frustration, disengagement. Anelli, sleepless. Corey, achy from lack of movement. Rosvita, cocooning, being alone, no mood to do anything. Wolfgang, redrawing, missing physical meetings. Melissa, avoidance. Idris, loss of sleepless nights, anxiety, self-isolation, less sleep, being nice. Been nice for me to feel the world slow down and have the permission to slow down. I like that. Cheryl, self-soothing with food. Roger, depression. Linda, sleepless. Overwhelmed, stuck, hard to move forward.
Thank you. I see there's still more coming in,
Yes.
but go ahead. We can maybe just a few more.
Okay. Restless and tired. Renee, awake equals moving underwater, feeling asleep, vivid nightmares. Linda, fatigue. Jessica, less energy to maintain relationships. Cheryl, desperately wanting to be held.
Let's stop there because, in a way, don't we all desperately want to be held?
Yeah.
So I'm going to stop the screen share for one last group holding. And I'm going to invite you to see each other one last time because we just shared something really personal. And you can still scroll through those. Thank you, Zenobia. But it's just amazing how tender we are as human beings. And isn't it beautiful how we all are experiencing in such human ways, even the things that can be difficult, there's a connection in that, and being able to express that, and being able to receive that. Thank you. So these are the impacts. And I invite you, if you'd like to certainly read more of that article, I put the resource there that really goes into deeper. I mean, there are more prescriptions being issued for insomnia medication. Dentists are seeing more teeth grinding and teeth cracking. Dermatologists are reporting more hair loss from men and women. There's a lot going on. So when we look at the impacts of the stress of uncertainty, it brings us to how do we cultivate our resilience and our resourcefulness. And just a quick look at the definitions. Resilience is the ability to recover through difficulties, preferably quickly. And similarly, resourcefulness, again, they both share the word difficulties, to overcome that. And so that is the objective, is how can we overcome these difficulties? How can we face these chronic uncertainties? And so we're going to be looking over the next rest of the session on ways that nonviolent communication can help. So just to give you a quick overview, many of you who've already studied nonviolent communication are familiar with its 4 elements. So one of the things that can be helpful is just remembering observations. There's so much going on right now that is provoking our anxiety. A lot of fear-mongering, a lot of conspiracy theories, and remembering the power of observations, our ability to focus on facts and to discern between what's real and what's our imagination spinning out of control with fear, to focus on what is. That can be really helpful. The other ingredient of NVC, as we mentioned, are feelings. And again, it's really easy for us to give into our conditioning, to suck it up and be tough and be strong for your children, and all these things that our culture tells us, to negate, hide, or deny our emotions. And yet our emotions are really critical data. they really tell us what's going on and where our energy is going. And it's pointing us to under the surface of what's really mattering. And what's under that surface from an NVC perspective are needs. These are the underlying values and qualities that we're longing for. So in times of uncertainty, when there's a lot on the line, needs could be, health, safety, shelter, security, belonging, all these things that are so critical during times of uncertainty. And later in the session, we're going to do a little activity around this last one, which is making requests. This is going to be really key in building our safety net and building our resources, is what can we ask of ourselves and of each other to help meet our needs, especially during these tender times. So let's jump in even more. So there's a great article from Harvard Business Review on the 3 characteristics of resilient people. And there's a citation here at the bottom. I'm going to quickly name them, and then we're going to do a few little interactive exercises with each other on how we can cultivate these in our own lives. So the 3 characteristics are acceptance of reality. Again, back to the observation, discerning between what's real and what's not, and not staying in denial. The second is a deep belief that life is meaningful. And then third is our ability to improvise. So let's jump into these. And this is going to be a little interactive, so get ready. So, oops, why is my cursor? There we go. So let's jump into acceptance. Acceptance is such a powerful quality. And one of the ways that I like to access acceptance, or to make it easy, is the Serenity prayer. Now, regardless of your religious belief, there is some really powerful content here. And if we just look at the elements of the Serenity prayer, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That really says it all. And I know that it's often used in recovery circles, people recovering from addiction and other things. And yet this is something that can help us every day. So get your pen and paper ready. We're going to do a brainstorm around the Serenity prayer. So here's how it works. For this brainstorm, I'm going to, when I count to 3, I'm going to ask you to write down, make a list without judging, without editing, without thinking or analyzing. Write all the things that are frightening you right now. Write down all the things that are worrying you, keeping you up at night. What are all the fears around this time of uncertainty right now? So go ahead and make a big list. Again, without judgment, without editing, just write. 1, 2, 3. Keep writing, even if it feels like you want to stop. See if you can challenge yourself to keep writing, keep writing. Give you 5 more seconds. Okay, so, okay, are you ready for the next step? So one of the aspects of the Serenity prayer is to grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change. So the next thing I'd like you to do with your list is to take your writing instrument, and for everything on that list that is something that is out of your control, that it's not something that you can significantly control or influence, I want you to do 2 things. One is to draw a line through it, to cross it out. But at the end of that line, I want you to draw a little heart. So line through the things that you cannot change and end that line with a little heart to indicate acceptance. So go ahead and do that right now. And Sarah, thank you. In case you forget the instructions, Sarah's kind enough to write that into the chat. Oh, and Zenobia as well. Thank you. Oh, you both have my back. I love it. And if you finish, go ahead and take that in. Take a look at those and see if you can grant yourself some acceptance of those items. Really connect with that heart. These are the things over which I do not have any control or insignificant control or influence. Can I invite myself to accept them so that I can better channel my energy to things that I can change? Okay, so part 2 now is to look at your list and circle the ones that give me the courage to change the things that I can. So anything that you have some influence or control over, something that you have some ability to influence change, go ahead and circle those. And we're going to go into making requests a little later, but just acknowledge that one of the things that I love about nonviolent communication is that it's the language of empowerment. Realizing that we have choice in any given moment. So for these items that you've circled, you can choose or not choose to do something about it. Some things might be difficult. It might mean making a request. It might mean quitting a job. It might mean moving your house. It might mean changing a significant relationship. And yet we still have that choice. So I'm going to read what Sequoia is saying in the chat. She says, sometimes there is the maddening experience of not being able to tell what is in one's control and what isn't. And thank you for saying that, Sequoia, because that is the third part of the Serenity prayer. And I'm going to bring that back to the share screen because there's a reason that it's something that requires intention. It's not automatic. It's the wisdom to know the difference. So again, regardless of whether you have a spiritual or religious belief or not, to be able to connect with the intention of this is to accept the things that we cannot change, to recognize that we do have the ability to change some things and that those things might take courage, and then the discernment, the wisdom to know the difference. And we'll go into a little later some of the things that can help us with that discernment and the wisdom, things like meditation, and more. So, okay, so that concludes this little exercise. The next one, we're actually going to be talking to each other. So that was the first of the 3 qualities of resilient people: acceptance. Can we cultivate acceptance, especially over the things we cannot change? The second is a belief that life is meaningful. So one way that we can cultivate this quality in ourselves, this quality of resilience, is to remember Viktor Frankl, who was the Holocaust survivor, psychotherapist, who wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning. And what he said is, those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how. And these are powerful words, considering that he studied people in the concentration camp. What was the difference between those that survived and those that succumbed to the hardships? And this is the essence of it. Those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how. So let's apply this to our own lives now. Take a moment and just silently reflect. What gives your life meaning that is helping you through this time? And if you like, you're welcome to journal that as well. What gives your life meaning that is helping you through this time? And then I'm going to ask for us to, Sarah, to go into dyads, into random groups, pairs, and you'll have 4 minutes to share. So 2 minutes per person to share with a partner what gives your life meaning that's helping you through this time. Nice to see some familiar faces. Happy Ron, John, more.
So it looks like everyone's back. And before Lorraine, you start again, I just wanted to mention about the breakout rooms, a couple of things. So yeah, with the pairs, a few people had internet trouble, so they couldn't make it to the room. So if you were alone in your room, that might have been one of the things that happened. Also, I wanted to clarify my request around the equal sign in front of your name. So I'm asking that you rename yourself with an equal sign and then your name. A few people rename themselves with just an equal sign. And I was actually trying to reach out to a couple people specifically, and I didn't know because your name was just equals. So for the next time, rename yourself with equals and your name.
Thanks, Sarah. And that gave me a chance to read some of the chats. Got Zenobia saying that I love this question, and saying, wow, that was a wonderful experience of touch as well as learning from each other. So thank you. I love hearing your responses. So breathe that in, not only what you just shared, but what you also received from someone, because I really believe that when we are able to share these deeper drivers for us, that it actually amplifies it when it's being held by someone else, and when we're holding someone else's, it amplifies the impact of that, in my own experience at least. So that was the second, just to remind us of the 3 characteristics of resilient people, the belief that life is meaningful. And so now the third and the final one, which is, and this is so big when we're talking about uncertainty, which is the ability to improvise. You know, in our culture, well, I don't want to say our culture because we're around the world, but in a lot of Western culture, we tend to be very problem solution oriented. You know, what is the problem and how do we solve it? Kind of that yang energy, you know, like attack it. We're going to fight the cancer, you know, the war on drugs, you know. So be aware that we often have a lot of cultural programming on, oh, what is this problem and how are we going to solve it? And that doesn't apply in times of uncertainty. Remember VUCA, you know, it comes with ambiguity. And so our ability to recognize that this is unprecedented, and that we don't even know as much as we need to know to figure these things out. We're going along the way, we're learning as we go along in our own lives, in science, and in society. So this is such a key thing for uncertain times, is the ability to improvise. So I'm going to remind us of a key nonviolent communication principle that really plays into this third characteristic of resilience, which is I like to think of the difference between needs and strategies, which I'll describe in a moment, as the iceberg model. If we look at human beings as icebergs, you know, the part that's visible is really a very small part of us. There's so much more to us that are under the surface. And so one way to look at that is, in nonviolent communication, our behaviors are what we call strategies, the choices we make, what I do, what I say. And so these are the things that are obvious, the things that are above the water that you can see. But really, in nonviolent communication, what I love about the simplicity and elegance of NVC is that strategies are all driven by our desire to meet needs. So I may get a job as that's my strategy, to meet my need for security, like financial security maybe, or for contribution, because I have talents that I want to share with the world. I might get married, or I might go on Tinder, you know, as a strategy for my need for maybe love or affection. So, you know, this is not meant to be an entire lesson in nonviolent communication, but this distinction is really important when it comes to resilience, because it helps us to remember that in these super precious needs right now, shelter, safety, health, security, so much is on the line in these times of uncertainty, to remember that we can hold softly this need to have predetermined outcomes, to let go of the illusion that we have this thing figured out, to hold strategies softly and to hold needs closely. So in other words, let's look at the pandemic. One of the fears that I have is homelessness, and it's irrational. You know, I know that's not going to happen. And yet there's part of me, it's like, wow, what happens if all the money runs out? Where will I go? And so, you know, in this case, it would be the need for shelter. And it helps me to remember that there are many strategies to meet that need. You know, one strategy that I'm doing right now is, you know, since I didn't feel all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed about finding more work when my big contract with China dissolved when the pandemic hit, it's like, okay, you know what? I don't feel like making money right now and trying to find more work. So I moved to Mexico temporarily, where I can meet my need for shelter, for beauty, because I'm looking out at the ocean, and you know, do what I thought was my life's work and what turned out to be more of a cocooning. But the strategy, that was one strategy to meet that need. You know, another strategy that I'm so grateful for, one of my best friends, I was telling her about some of my anxieties. And, you know, she was really clear. She said, you know, Lorraine, you know, I anticipate I'm going to outlive my husband. And what, you know, of course we don't wish death on anyone. She goes, my dream is that you and I can live together. And even regardless of whether I'm, you know, in a marriage or not, you will never have to worry about being without a place to live. You're always family here. So that's an example of a strategy to meet needs, just for shelter, is to be each other's safety net. And I've said that to another person in my life, saying, look, you will never have to worry about a place to live. You know, I've got a couch, you know, I've always got a place for you if you need it. So it helps to hold strategy softly, because it may not be the shelter or the safety or the health or security the way we want, but there's many ways to meet that need. So one of the things to remember, that I'm going to invite you to join me in a little activity right now, is to improvise, to look at different ways, different strategies to meet our needs. We can get in that place of creativity and collaboration when we're in a place of play. So this is so important. This technique of play it sounds childish, it sounds small, but it's actually huge. I mean, so much that I do a lot of work with software development companies around how to incorporate play as a way to innovate, to develop better software, to develop solutions to help people. So I want to take you through a little exercise right now. I'm going to turn off the screen share, and I'm going to invite you all to go into gallery view. And I'm going to invite you to stand up, and we're going to do a couple little playful things, just so you can see how this can shift your energy and your creativity. So I'm going to stand up. I'm going to invite you all to stand up. And keep yourselves muted for now. And this is a great Zoom fatigue strategy as well, because, you know, we're kinesthetic beings. We have bodies, and it helps to use them. So, okay, coming from Los Angeles myself, I was so happy when the Dodgers won the World Series. So in honor of that, go Dodgers, I'm going to, yeah, we got some Dodger fans. I'm going to be the pitcher, and I'm going to throw a ball to all of you. So I want you all to be ready with your baseball bat. And when I pitch that ball to you, I want you all to hit a home run, and I want you to see it go out of the park. Okay, you ready? Okay, here we go. Here's my pitch. Knock it out of the park and watch it go. Woo! Okay, so that's one little thing. And just notice, just being a little silly, a little playful, how that feels in your body, how that feels in your emotion. Now, we're a big group. We're 52 people. Here's something that you can try yourselves in smaller groups, because with 52, it's kind of hard to manage with the sound. But I love to do a ball toss, just an imaginary ball toss. So the way it works is it only works if people are totally silent. You take yourselves off of mute, and you have to make sure it's totally silent so that only the person who makes a noise is the screen that pops up in the gallery view. And so I don't know if you want to try it. If someone has their speaker off, we'll try it, but it needs to be really quiet. And so I'll throw a ball and shout that to that person, and then they'll throw the ball to someone else and shout it to them. So I see that Ann G doesn't has her speaker off, so I'm going to throw her the ball. Here you go, Ann. Whoa! Ann!
Got it. Sequoia.
Christine.
Happy Ron Hill.
Got it. Oh man, this is heavy.
Yes.
Wolfgang. Wolfgang.
Got it.
Woohoo! All right. Oh my gosh, we did it with a crowd of 50. You must have, that's impressive. So this is a little example. By the way, I love the sound effects, the whoosh, right? And I've seen it in groups where people are spinning the ball on their finger or bouncing it around. So just notice, like I'm scrolling through your faces right now, and I'm seeing smiles, I'm seeing body movement. Mm-hmm. And just notice that if we're cultivating resilience, when we're in this state of play, this state of lightness, this actually engages the part of our brains that are more creative. When you're playful, we can actually be more creative and more willing to fail. And that's what this takes right now. Since we're learning as we're going to do small experiments, to try something. If it didn't work, we'll tweak it again. And to do that with a sense of play invites us into that place of experimentation. So let's see, how are we doing on time? Okay, let me wrap this up. We're gonna take a little break, believe it or not. But let me just summarize where we are and give you a preview of where we're going. So we've just covered the 3 qualities of resilient people. So, and just a quick review is
what's number 1? Acceptance.
Number 1 is acceptance. Number 2 is the belief that life is meaningful. And number 3, the ability to improvise. And all the better if you can do it with a sense of playfulness. So what's going to come next for us is talking about your resilience bank account. But I also believe that it's really important that we don't stare at a screen for 2 hours. I don't think, so what I'm going to ask is that you literally step away from the screen for the next 5 minutes and move your body. And we'll re-engage to talk about ways that you can build not only your resilience, but also ways that you can build your resources. And I'm going to, I don't know if it's fair to put one of our viewers on the spot. I know there's a musician in this crowd named Happy Ron. I don't know if Ron, would you like to serenade us during the
Yes, I'd be honored to.
I would love that. I'm a fan of him. And if you want to check out his music, just type Happy Ron in the search engine. So Ron, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna turn off my video and dance around while you play, and I'll see you in 5 minutes. But please look away from the screen, listen to Ron's music. I invite you to dance. If you want to dance on the camera, that's cool too. All right, thank you, Ron.
Lorraine's also a musician. I get to listen to her play every single morning. If you want to find out about that, ask her. She's kind of shy about it, but she inspires me every morning. And you can too, actually. Sometimes you slip away from me, and I know you're not going someplace good. Your eyes drift away and you cannot see the beauty I hoped you would. You just need to see, and you just need to be seen, and breathe, breathe, breathe. So let's just agree that I'll stay here and give you a shelter in the storm, so you can sail past all your fears and come home to where it's warm. You just need to see, and you just need to be seen. And breathe, breathe, breathe. The past is not your fault, just an echo from long ago. Life is calling to you. It's time to enjoy the show. Someday you'll stay here with me and won't head back to the night. In front of you is all you need, so turn your face to the light. You just need to see, and you just need to be seen. And breathe, breathe, breathe. Sometimes you slip away from me, so breathe, breathe, breathe. So this next song is my most popular song. If you're dancing around, you can hear my voice. You can shout along. The sing-along song when I go terribly happy, you go terribly happy, terribly happy. It's pretty obvious. Been working, packing groceries for many long years. Been looking for ways to pack up my tears. That's why I write my songs, try to make them snappy, cause it makes me feel terribly happy. Terribly happy. My girlfriend got pregnant, got sick in my car. While I built the crib, she just went and barked. So when she finally popped that kid out, she felt terribly happy. Terribly happy. If life gets you down, turn it around and be terribly happy. Terribly happy. If I never make it, that's okay. You know I'm gonna have plenty more to say. It's all about the people who don't make me feel crappy, the ones who make me feel terribly happy, terribly happy, terribly happy, terribly happy, terribly happy. Everyone go.
Ron, thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine. I'll post all my links in the chat if everyone's interested. And be sure to ask Lorraine about how you too can hear her sing 5 days a week for fully free.
Oh, thank you, Ron. You played my favorite song, the Breathe one. I love that one. That one made me cry the first time I heard it.
Oh, I like making you cry.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. Okay, we still have a lot of juicy content, so let me go ahead and start the screen share again. So, okay. So, I love this idea of a resilience bank account. And it was inspired by an article that a colleague of mine, a professor, shared. And the name of the article is called, "Your Surge Capacity is Depleted. It's Why You Feel Awful." and when she shared it with me, I was like, oh my gosh, this is all about me. And so it had some really great resources, and a lot of them that relate to nonviolent communication in if you look at it through that lens that I want to share with you. So let's take a look right now. Come on. So there's a whole lot more to this article than what I'm going to share with you. But one of the things that we talk about is this idea of the bank account, a resilience bank account. And this bank account is fueled by practices. And the emphasis is on the word practice. Little practices, tiny practices that build up over time. So think of each little practice as like a coin you know, something that we keep putting in the bank, whether it's a good night's sleep, you know, which, you know, are we going to bed early, or are we falling asleep on the couch, binge watching Netflix? You know, am I taking comfort food, or am I making a little extra effort, or maybe a little extra money to put things in my body that'll better support me? Exercise, meditation. For me, the big one in my life lately has been self-compassion. You know, again, I like to think that I'm this, you know, prolific maverick of this highly productive person. And it's like, you know what? I think I just need to cocoon for a while. And instead of beating myself up, why am I not writing pages a day of a masterpiece? Why am I not composing my Fifth Symphony? It's like, you know, because I think I just want to kind of curl up and journal, you know, like, and to allow myself, to give myself that space. I'm going to be all right. And if this is the time to give myself that self-compassion versus beating myself up for not being or doing other things. So, and of course, the practice of gratitude, which Ron kind of hinted at, we'll talk about that at the end. Human connection is so big, cultivating our connection to others. And this is a big one too, is saying no. You know, how often do we get spread thin, you know, and say yes to things that are depleting us? So take a look at that list right now. Our next activity is to pick one. Pick one from this list. And my challenge to you is don't pick the easy one. There's probably one there that is crying for help, that's crying out to you. Which is the one that is calling you, saying, hey, you know, we need more of me in your life. So pick that one. And what we're going to do about that is think about what's one small way in your life that you will feed your resilience bank account, and how might that help you? So I'll go back to that list. Pick something from this list. And again, the thing that you know, you know it's crying out for you. And then what's one tiny thing, the tiniest thing that you might be able to do this week? That, like, think of it as a penny. What's a penny of that one thing that you can put in the bank? You know, if it's self-compassion, which is one of my favorites, I could just go to the mirror and smile at myself and tell myself that I love me. You know, something that small. Meditation, you know, my favorite micro meditation is before I turn on the keys in my car, that I literally put down the keys and take 2 breaths. Even that micro meditation. So this is the level of micro feeding the piggy bank that I'm challenging you to do. What's the thing that's crying out, and what's something as small as a penny in metaphor that you can do to feed it? And that'll be our next activity. So we'll be pairing, and instead of pairing in doubles, we'll be doing triads, groups of 3, and you'll share with each other what's one small way that you'll feed your bank account this week, and how will it help you? And so since we have 3 people, we'll give, let's see, how much time do we have? Yeah, we'll give each other, how about 6 minutes per triad. And Sarah, I'll let you work your magic. And while we're coming back from the breakout groups, I invite you to write in the chat some of the things that you've committed to do to feed your resiliency bank. So I'm curious to see what those are. So go ahead, and it could be something that you committed to, or it could be something that your partner committed to that inspired you. And I'm just saying, awesome to synergize our micro feedings. Yeah, I love that idea of micro feedings. So Zenobia, if you can be our chat guru and go ahead as they start coming in, just to shout out a few. I don't see any new ones yet. But go ahead and write in the chat, folks, some of the things that you're committing to do to feed your piggy bank, your resiliency bank account.
Stop and breathe. Yes. Breaking out the oil paints I bought in March. Yes.
Yeah, love it.
Exercise, 5 sun salutations in the morning, walk around the block every day, and my self-reflection. Committed to practicing more connections this week, maybe a walk with a friend or a phone call. Corey, find a place to get exercise or dance at home. Sequoia, softening inside and reminding myself the state of the world is not my fault. Emma, keeping a daily list of noting what is in my control, not in my control, and what is ambiguous. Lauren, sleep equals turning off my devices and Wi-Fi at night. Michelle, notice early when my self-talk is damaging. I really resonate with that one. Roger, check in with Facebook pet groups, golden retrievers, Maine Coon cats. Oh, that's nice. Leanne, make sure the behavior changes I'm requesting really seem like questions and not demands. Dee Dee, look into the eyes of the other. To practice self-compassion, routine of feeding the bank, say no to social media and move, walk every day, express gratitude to others, Christine, connect to nature and breath. And one of my partners visualizes a white light in her head before going to sleep, letting it swirl around and clean it out and run out through her feet. Oh, I like that. Mm-hmm. Linda, oh, you've inspired me. I saw that people can learn belly dancing online. Sounds playful and healthy. Roger, watching fun in videos and calling someone regular and sharing a joke.
Cool. Let's do about 2 or 3 more.
All right. Cheryl, allow myself rest and playtime. Roger, making faces in the morning. Rosvita, saying I love you to my partner and kids every day before sleep.
Oh, yeah. Oh, isn't it awesome to hear the beautiful like landslide of pennies into these bank accounts? Because then when you just see all these, like, think about like when the slot machine happens and all the coins start coming out, you know, imagine how this is all going to add up. It's going to add up. And so, yeah, just, you know, be aware of that. It's these little things that add up. So often I used to think I need to get away and do a retreat, and that's still important. But man, it's those little things that really, for me, polish the jagged stone and smooth all the edges for me. So let's talk about resources, because we've been saving this for last. So we've been focusing on resilience and how we can be resilient. But what about resources? Resources is a big part of uncertainty right now. There's a lot of common fears right now. You know, what'll happen if I lose my job? Or what'll happen if the money runs out? You know, what'll happen if I get evicted? What'll happen if someone I love loses their life to COVID, or if I do? You know, let's look at resources, because that's so critical to meeting our needs. So one of the things in the same article that I recently cited, the If Your Surge Capacity is Depleted article, is it talks about the importance of maintaining and strengthening important relationships. And NVC, y'all, nonviolent communication, it's all about the human connection. Human connection is so integral to our sense of resources because we are each other's safety net. That's why I picked this photo. So just to quote the article, the biggest protective factors for facing adversity and building resilience are social support and remaining connected to people. That includes helping others even when we're feeling depleted ourselves. Boy, if there's ever been a time to reach out to a neighbor, to a friend, to a loved one, this is the time. And sometimes it can take extra effort, like the article says, even when we're feeling depleted. Because sometimes when we're facing uncertainty or adversity of some sort, I don't know about you, but sometimes my tendency is not to reach out. The tendency is just to kind of go in and curl up in a ball. So can we overcome sometimes that natural desire just to curl up in a ball and to either reach out a hand to support or to make a request and ask for support? I picked this photo of ants because what we talk about in this this concept of human connection, that we are each other's safety net for each other. We are the web of support. That this isn't just with human beings. This isn't just human connection. Even in nature, here's an example of ants building a bridge. Ants will do this across water. Ants will do this in nature in phenomenal ways. That even in nature, it's about collaboration. How can we achieve things together that we cannot do individually? So please think of this as not only a human force, but this is a natural force. This is how we're designed. We're designed to help each other. So let's take a look at this magnificence of human connection and how that applies to some of our most common fears. Often the things that I hear, as well as come up for me, is, what happens if we lose a loved one? We all probably know people, or maybe ourselves, who are really vulnerable to COVID right now, that it wouldn't take much to push them over the edge. Or what happens if we run out of money or lose a job? Or, homelessness. What if I can't pay for my rent anymore? Or the loss of my own life. What if I get sick? And how would that impact the people around me? So let's look at this concept around our common fears. In nonviolent communications, one of the big things is that the 4 ingredients is the ability to make requests. And I like to talk about the combination of offers and requests. So when I facilitate conflict resolution in organizations, like typically group conflicts, not so much individual conflicts, is the first part is I tend to spend a lot of time around empathy, often playing empathy poker, sharing stories, helping the other side appreciate the conflict and how their behaviors, their actions have impacted the other. And when we're in this place of beautiful empathy and human connection, that's when we move the conflict resolution into what I call offers and requests. Once we have that beautiful empathic connection, I'll say, okay, is there anything you want to offer the people here that could help meet the needs that you just heard them express? What might you offer? And I'm going to ask this to you all. What might you offer to someone in your life that might help them feel more secure? What have you got that might help someone out? It could be money. It could be a place to stay. It could be a lead to a possible job, or maybe mentoring someone. What might you offer someone to help them feel more secure? Since I've been living here in Mexico, I've been telling everyone, hey, if things get really bad, I know how to live here. I can tell you where to find a great home that'll be a fraction of what it costs to live in San Diego. So I have knowledge to share. It's like, it's just an hour from where you live right now and you can live at half the price. I'll show you how. So what might you have you to offer that can help people feel more secure during this time of uncertainty? And then the more vulnerable question is, what might you request? What might you ask for of your relationships in case things get worse? And this is often, I know we're from around the world, but I have to speak of, being raised in American culture, this idea of, you do it by yourself, you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, doing it all alone, this independence that we so value. And yet at the same time, we cut ourselves off from the beauty of interdependence. So I love the fact that, that if I run out of money, which doesn't look like that's going to happen anytime soon, but if it happens, I've already had an uncle who's reached out to me saying, hey, Lorraine, if you're hurting, let me know, and that feels so good, right? And, and similarly, to be able to talk with people to say, hey, if worst case scenario, do you all want to get a house together? So doing sort of this kind of emergency planning during these times of uncertainty, having those conversations, what happens if mom dies? What are we going to do? This is the time to have those fearless, those courageous conversations for our on our behalf as well as on the behalf of the vulnerable among us. What kind of support can we plan for in these sort of worst case scenarios? Loss of life, the money runs out, an eviction, etc. If you think about it, we all have, if we offered our resources to each other, there would be no homelessness. There would be no hunger in the world. So how can we contribute to that in our own circles? So how are we doing on time? We've got a little time left. So I just want to bring to our attention, making requests take courage. I do an entire workshop on how to ask for what you want using nonviolent communication. And what I've found is that, you know, people can get the concepts in NVC pretty well about how to make an effective request, but they still, the hardest part is often the courage to ask. The courage to ask, like, hey, you know, if I lose my job, you know, could you help me out? Could you give me a loan? You know, or, you know, would you like to be roommates? You know, like, you know, and giving people the chance to say no as well, which is part of nonviolent communication. So take a moment and think about your life. You know, what are some of those big fears that they may be rational, they may be irrational, but I know when we first checked into the session, the word anxiety popped up a lot when we were talking about the emotions you experience. So what are some of the things that give you anxiety in terms of this current environment of uncertainty? And we're going to do one more sharing around offers and requests. What's one thing you might offer someone to help them feel more secure? And I invite you to write that down so that when you go into a breakout, you can remember what that is. So what's one thing you might offer someone to help them feel more secure? And it could even be something small. You could offer someone a meal, or just checking in on someone and letting them know you're there for them. It could be a neighbor, you know, or just, hey, you know, whether it's your phone number, you know, it could be material assistance if you have that to offer. You know, if someone gets sick, could you provide meals for them? And then the other question, part two of our sharing, is what kind of support might you ask of your relationships in case things get worse? What is the big ask? What's the big scary ask that might take some courage to ask? But if they said yes, would give you some ease around this time of uncertainty. So in a moment, we're going to go back into triads, and you'll each have, we'll give you a little more time. We'll give you, why don't we say 9 minutes? So 3 minutes each. What's something you might offer to help them feel more secure? And then what's something you might request of someone in your life to help you feel more secure? So Sarah, if you want to go ahead and put us in triads, so you can share those two things. Okay, we're going to go ahead and keep moving on so that we can finish by 1:30 or a little before that. So I hope you found that exercise useful, not only to tap into that yourself, but to hear what other people might have to say. So feel free to type on what that was like for you in the chat. Here, someone said, Linda says, I love talking to a lady from a different country. It offered me the space to learn, to make a request. Yeah, making requests can be really vulnerable. So while those are coming in, I'm going to go ahead and leap to the next subject, which is gratitude. This is a big one. So we talked about, remember the piggy bank of little practices that can build our resiliency, the resiliency bank account. As Happy Ron mentioned, this is a personal favorite, is practicing gratitude, because not only does it actually increase our resilience, what I love about gratitude practices, not just feeling gratitude, but actually consciously practicing gratitude, is that it actually elevates not only us, but helps other people be more resilient. Think about it. Think about a time that someone expressed a heartfelt thanks or gratitude to you for something that you did that made life better for them. I mean, how did that feel to be acknowledged? So I love gratitude because it goes both ways. It elevates us and it elevates the other. I'm going to take a little pause right now and just see if we just take a little peek at the chats again. Zenobia, I'm kind of jumping in. Let's see. Great brainstorming. Lauren says the self-judgment can be a lot. They said no, so I must be selfish for asking that request. Ooh, that's a big one. Yeah, is to release self-judgment. And also to help people who don't understand NVC to understand that it's okay to say no. Making it safe for people to say no is part of our art of NVC. How can I make it easy for you to say no instead of making you feel pressured or obligated to say no? So Linda says, remember that you just guessed wrong and that's fine. They will say yes to something else. You start a negotiation. Yeah, this is, I mean, this can get into the whole science, the art of making requests, which for those of you who are students of NVC, I highly encourage. The beauty of making requests is, remember how we said earlier, to hold strategy softly and to hold needs closely. So we can say, would you do this? And they say no, but there might be other ways to meet that need. You know, so like if I could ask, would you help me out financially? They might say no. Maybe they, you know, they don't want to give money, and that's okay. You know, but maybe if I need a bike to get to work, you know, maybe you can lend me a bike. You know, so I mean, these are kind of simplistic ideas, but the idea of using our creativity in our resourcefulness, that there's different ways to meet our needs and not to be attached that it has to be this. And that's what she's referring to about negotiation. So, and making it safe for others to say no, we got a little message about that. You know, a lot, you know, that, again, that's its own workshop. So, but if I were just to slice through a lot of it and just get to the main kernel, making it easy to say no, the biggest thing we can do is to make sure that our energy is not demand energy. So have you ever had a request from someone, but it kind of feels like a demand? You know, they can say, oh, you can say no, you know, but you still feel the pressure to say yes. So a lot of that has to do with the energy that we put. Am I really willing to lovingly and gracefully hear a no? And if I can be in that energy place in my being, when I make that request, you know, people tend to be pretty energy savvy. That'll make it easier. It may not it may not do the whole thing, because a lot of us are programmed into not saying no. And some cultures, it's harder to say no as well. It's considered rude or impolite. So, you know, this is, we can shift our energy and that will help, but it may not be 100%. Another thing too is to ask open-ended questions. That's another trick. I know I'm kind of going a little off topic here, but instead of saying, will you do this for me, yes or no? You know, in nonviolent communication, we often say, would you be willing to X, Y, Z? And then it's like a yes or no answer. And that can make it hard for people to say no. It's a lot easier for people to, if you give them an open-ended question, to say, hey, you know, instead of, you know, I'm going to be evicted soon, can I sleep on your couch? Yes or no? You know, you could say, I'm going to be evicted soon. Can you think of any ways to help me find the next, you know, to find a place to stay? See, that's an open-ended question that invites creativity and collaboration. So this is one of the things where I find nonviolent communication sometimes a little limiting, because it can invite us sometimes to do the are you willing to, yes or no question. And in coaching, if we can expand that to an open-ended question, saying, how might we, you know, would you give me a job? Yes or no? You know, is there a way that you can help me find employment? That's more, you know, what ways can you suggest that I might find a job? So asking an open-ended question invites more collaboration. So those are your kind of nutshell, Lorraine's hacks on making requests. Make sure your energy is request and not demand energy in the first place. And then ask open-ended questions as much as possible versus are you willing to ... yes or no, closed-ended questions. So let's go ahead and shift into gratitude, because this is a really big one. So as Ron mentioned, this is something that I actually practice every day, and that's how I got to know Ron and his music so well. Literally since COVID lockdown started happening, I did this little experiment that kind of took its life of its own called One Gratitude. And every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, I just do this free little gratitude session where I go on Instagram Live and I share my gratitude for the day. I sing a song, and that's what Ron mentioned. You can hear me sing a new song every day. And while I'm serenading you, anyone who's live types in their gratitudes into the comment box, and then I read through them and give people shout outs. So if you would like to join me in this gratitude practice, it's free. I don't do this this is just a service to the world that turned out to be a real service to me. But if you want to celebrate gratitude and community, just check me out on Working Harmony in Instagram. And you can be part of the gratitude circle. So it's fun. We have people from other countries join, and I find it to be really wonderful. So that's just one option for gratitude practice. There's lots of ways to do that. And one of the ways we're going to do right now. So take a moment and reflect. This is going to be our last sharing, which is, what's one gratitude that you have that is helping you through this time? I imagine there's a lot that you can be grateful for. We can make a huge list, but pick a juicy one. What's a juicy gratitude that, if you are sick in bed with COVID, what's that thing that's going to give you hope, right? If you're up at night stressing out with anxiety, what's that gratitude that's going to bring you back to yourself? That's going to bring you back to your center. So think about that. What's one gratitude that you have that can be your portal back to yourself, back to your grounding, back to calm? And we're going to do one last group of triads to share this. Actually, I'll tell you what, let's make it a little more interesting. Let's do groups of 4, since we have a little more luxury, so you can get to know more people. Sarah, if you could break us up into groups of 4 and just share, what's one gratitude that is really your anchor, that's really going to help you through this time of uncertainty. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Okay, we're getting close to a close in the last few minutes. So as people are coming back, I really encourage you to continue with your gratitude practice. This is true not just in life, this is also true in the workplace. Believe it or not, where I do most of my nonviolent communication training in organizations, and there's so much research that backs this up. And this is a huge NVC concept. Gratitude is a universal human need. Is that the highest performing teams, believe it or not, tend to give 5 gratitudes or 5 expressions of appreciation for every 1 constructive criticism. So think about that. In organizations, in the workplace, if the highest performing teams give 5 appreciations, 5 gratitudes for every 1 constructive criticism, how can I apply that ratio in my own life? How often am I giving people constructive ideas on how they can do things better? Have you tried this? And problem solving, etc. Even from a place of generosity, still, we tend to be like, how can I problem solve and fix? Versus just expressing gratitude. So it's really important. Gratitude empowers people. This is what I love about nonviolent communication. In NVC, we express gratitude in concrete terms of what someone said or did that made a tangible difference to help me meet my needs. NVC gratitude is so different than what we call empty compliments. So this is where our nonviolent communication skills can really come in handy, is when we express gratitude, to do it with, this is what you did. Here's the observation. you know, and this is how it felt to me, and these are the needs that it met. It doesn't have to be a formula, but just coming from that impact, what was the impact that you made? That supercharges the gratitude versus the more complimentary gratitudes based on judgments, like you're such a rock star, you know, you're so smart, etc. These are judgment-based things that might be good for the ego to hear, but when we link to observations in nonviolent communication, our gratitudes are that much more powerful because we talk about the impacts. So let's bring this to a close. We've got some good stuff for you. I just want to wrap this up. We talked a lot about resilience and about you know, building our resiliency bank, as well as growing resources through building that strength of human connection with each other. And I just want to put the things that we learned in context of NVC. So just really quickly, these are some of the NVC values in action that really was the meat of this presentation, is the power of human connection. Human connection is not just a feeling. Human connection is what keeps us from falling, from poverty, from breakdown. You know, we rely on each other, just like those ants. You know, we are interdependent. And if we pull together, we can make a bridge to overcome things that we can't do alone. And what I love is that when we're in a place of empathy for each other, that naturally unlocks generosity. Marshall Rosenberg, our founder, talks about that, is from a place of empathy. It naturally unlocks our generosity, our desire to help someone. And similarly, we have the ability to make requests, to ask for help, and to gracefully hear a no if that's, you know, not what people are feeling. And if we do get a no, we have this beautiful concept of an MVC too, of, okay, that's okay. You can say no to that strategy, but maybe there's other ways that we can meet these precious needs. You know, and in this time of uncertainty, it's really important to be really open, to not be attached to a predetermined outcome. There might be lots of ways to meet my need for safety, shelter, health, whatever the things that I might be experiencing anxiety around. So, in closing, my wish for you is that you can apply these things that we learned here to help you be more resilient, and that you can be empowered to facilitate humanity rising right now. It's time for all of us to be change agents. So just a little reminder to please fill out the evaluation form. I love to get invited back to Nonviolent Communication Academy events. So, and your evaluation form, and also I like to improve. So if you have any suggestions on that, please let me know. But that does mean a lot to hear from you. Let's see, got a lot of anything else? And then, oops.
Lorraine?
Yes.
Can you clarify one more time where people can find your PowerPoint?
Oh, yes. Actually, I'm wondering if Sarah, you might be able to speak to that, because I know that everyone has access to your classroom from who registers, and from the NVCA, there should be a place where you can get files. But I don't know how to speak to that beyond that. Sarah, any thoughts?
Yes, in the classroom on NBC Academy, there's a tab called Resources. It's right next to the schedule, and that's where folks should be able to find the handouts.
Thank you. And Sarah, thank you. You posted, Sarah posted a link to the feedback form in the chat. So please click that. And I know we have 1 minute left. You're welcome to sign out, but I was so inspired by Happy Ron. I'm going to sing a song to sing you out. You're welcome to join me. And it's a song by Marshall Rosenberg. So it's a call and repeat. So the way it works is I'll sing the line, and on mute, we'll keep yourselves muted because it unfortunately won't work with the microphones. You can repeat it back. So I'll go something like, reach out to life, and you go, reach out to life. Okay, so here we go. Reach out to life, like leaves to sun, like plants to rain, like birds to grain.
like birds to grain.
Reach out to life.
Reach out to life.
So many times.
Many times.
In so many ways.
So many ways.
Afraid to give.
Afraid to give.
Afraid to live.
Afraid to live.
So many times. Let's celebrate.
Let's celebrate
The joys of life.
the joys of life.
Each little breath.
Each little breath.
From birth to death.
From birth to death.
Let's celebrate.
Let's celebrate.
Yay. Okay. I'm stopping screen share. We're going to close with a big old gallery view so I can see all your faces. Thank you, everyone. I so love doing this. Thank you for letting me do the work that I love. May this serve you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
And
a
thank you
lot.
to Zenobia and Sarah for my support. You got my back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Yay,
you.
Lorraine.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.